Few there are for guidance, able to direct those ready for unfathomed attainment, escaping those engrossed by mass market appeal. Secrets, even when presented as riddle for all to see, read meaningless to those unversed in parabolic citation. Even Morse code seems gibberish to one unskilled in the translation of its unscrupled encryption. We were all once angel, swift, strong, and witness to grand unfolding, the establishment, foundation of the greater mystery. In you dwells the knowledge of Christ singing creation into manifest being. You, like me, have equal right, merit, and opportunity to all bounty and treasure. And yet, only those who yield fully to such calling, privy to be holders of such secrets. You're called to more than expected, no matter what they say. It's been little seasons since we've entertained the sunshine of higher spaces, places. No remedy can replace its entry or diminish the memory of such love burned to mind. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv. And as I said, I guess 3 or 4 shows ago, I would be unveiling some new poetry that I had been lately working upon, and that in the process of putting together manuscript of new poems, because I know that a lot of you are appreciative of prose in such way, and that it will pique your curiosity to try to decipher the things that I'm speaking about, but that many of you are already can relate and that are walking the same road. And so, welcome and thank you, all of you that have taken the time to join me on this Saturday Sabbath. Know that I appreciate all of you and your friendship and your fellowship, and for allowing me to share time with you and to celebrate and worship the Most High in the ways that we do, with the search that all of us have put forth in trying to comprehend the greater purpose of life and being, to make sense of what it is that we are really here to do, what all of this is about, and why it's been established in such way that we've been given, granted the honor of being part of the creation, to be existent with all other things. What an incredible dream. What an incredible opportunity for all of us to even wake up to new day, to breathe new life, and to be able to live the lives that we have developed and grown accustomed to with loved ones and family and friends and children and spouses and parents and aunts and uncles and cousins and all those that surround you in your reality, and the pets that we've all come to love, the animals that we've take joy in being with. It's just, we're so truly blessed, and I'm so grateful. Here we are, 2015, it's a new year, and I just continue to pray for peace and safety and comfort, and chance to raise children in the blessings that are poured upon us in every day, especially here in this nation. Even though we have fallen away from God and Constitution, and with the enjoying the rights and freedoms that were established by those that bled for, that fought with their lives to protect and preserve, so that we could have chance to even live as we do in this day. And of course, the powers that be, the New World Order, and the elites that have been working overtime for decades, even generations, to destroy what is the dream of America, and to disintegrate the world's security to that of police state measures and crime, terror, chaos, those things which they want to embroil and conflagrate the whole world with. They want to pour gasoline on to the flames and stoke it so that everything is just a fire and set ablaze. But because of the protection of the Most High, in my opinion, it's been contained to a large degree. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. But anyways, today, I'm going to share some information on the Great Dragon. And I wanted to break up a little bit the series that I had been doing on the book of Atum and Ua. And I did a show this past Wednesday on the Thracians and shared information about that culture, which, if you had not had chance to hear that show, I'll post it as soon as I can, as soon as I'm able to convert it, and then I'll upload it to YouTube, which is the one place that you can find those Revolution Radio shows. I do have access to the archives, and when I have the time, I try to at least convert and upload what I consider to be the most important shows. And I have not even really had chance to convert 5% of all the shows that I've done on that particular broadcast, that Wednesday evening broadcast. I think I've only made, since they lost their own archival when they were doing it themselves, and for some reason YouTube had banned Revolution Radio and deleted a large number of our shows. in which there were a lot of ones that still are missing in action and that are not part of this year's archives. One in particular that I wish I could share with you is the show that I did with Jonathan Gray. It was a really incredible show, but it's one of those that is now lost to the collective memory of those of you that were able to catch it live. And there are many such shows that are disappeared, and so for that, I'm not able to bring those back up, but I am trying to make a point to share what I can with you, because I know that we've done a number of what I consider to be really important broadcasts on Wednesday evening, and that we have a much larger audience during that particular time slot. And it's because I'm part of, the largest broadcasting network on the planet and on the web, and that we have over 80 different hosts from covering a wide, eclectic variety of topics from all angle and perspective. And so it's a really intriguing family, to say the least, as far as all of our coming together and to do the work that we do there on Revolution Radio. And for those of you that can, do try to catch us Wednesday evening at freedomslips.com. That's www.freedomslips.com. All you have to do is click on the chat room and type in a name, whatever chat handle you would like, enter the chat room, and then click on Studio B. We have 2 studios going nonstop 24/7 at all times, and I broadcast from Studio B 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. And my friend Will Rogers, he also broadcasts there. There's a number of different individuals, many people that broadcast there. A lot of them I haven't even had a chance to hear or listen to. And so, anyways, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about who the great dragon is, that old serpent known as Satan and the devil, who has deceiveth the whole world. And for those of you that are familiar with the scripture, that's from Revelation 12. And there's several pieces that I want to make it a point to get to. I may not be able to get to all of them. And then there's also some stories which I want to share that are connected to the Nakash as a creature and being, and those that are worship as the feathered serpent or as dragons, and also to the hybrid beings that are the physical blood-born children of the Nakash, what Genesis 3:15 cites as the seed of the serpent, and how there would be this enmity between these 2 particular bloodlines, and that this would be ongoing and continuous until the second coming of Christ, which would happen with the second advent when he returns again, which also in Scripture in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, it speaks about the parable of the fig tree. And Christ says, when his disciples ask him, what will be the signs of your return, of your coming again? And he tells them to know ye the parable of the fig tree. meaning that those that are his disciples and that are followers and seekers and wanting to know as far as the signs of the seasons, he says it's not a choice, but that we should know the parable of the fig tree, meaning that this particular parable would be important for those that would be alive during what would be the generation of his coming again. And so he states it 3 times to confirm that it's also very important. Out of the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses shall the truth be established, and those 3 gospels are confirming witness to one another as to the importance of what is the parable of the fig tree and how it is associated to the nation of Israel, and that the actual blooming of the fig tree symbolizes the regathering together of Israel as a nation, and that when this event occurred, that it would be significant as sign and symbolism as to those being that are alive during that time when that symbol comes into play, when that particular event occurs, that this would be the generation that would see the second coming of the Son of Man. And so it's my opinion that the blooming of the fig tree was the regathering together of Israel as a nation, which the commandment went forth by the United Nations in 1947, but that it was actually restored May 14th, 1948, and that ever since then we've also had what Zechariah 12 speaks about as Jerusalem shall be a cup of trembling amongst the nations, and that the regathering of Israel as a nation and the people being gathered there in the land, that this would be reason for wars and rumors of wars and divisions of people and angst and antagonism and opposition, and those things have indeed come to light and have played out. Since the very first day, there have been wars where Israel has been attacked and gone to war against the Muslim nations that are surrounding her. And so it is my opinion that even though I know that this was an event that was orchestrated by the Rothschilds and also by the synagogue of Satan, those who say they are Jews but are not, and that the elites that are ruling in Israel are tied to and connected to the synagogue of Satan, it is still nothing can occur without the blessings and without there being manifest reason as far as the destiny and fate as laid out by the Most High. And so the things that the elites do and that Satan does and that the New World Order is able to pull off, all those things align with and fall into accord with the destiny that has been laid out by the Most High. Even things like 9/11, these endless war on terror, all these things, they are all part of what we're talking about. And so I'm going to share, one thing I definitely want to share is the story of Bel and the dragon, which we'll get to that And this will give you an idea as to the worship of the Nakash, and that there were, the pagan nations worldwide that do embrace a theology which supports the worship of the fallen angels, first and foremost, with that of who we come to know as Lucifer, Satan, the adversary, Beliar, Sakla, Samael. He's got many different names. Iblis, Azazel. There's so many different names for this particular being, Yaldabaoth in the Gnostic terminology. But anyways, he is the Nakash of Genesis chapter 3. This particular being that is thought of as being a serpent, of which the book of Atum and Ua speaks about as being the winged serpent, the feathered snake, the guardian of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that this particular being also aligns with the seraphim angels and with the Anunnaki, and also the second advent of these particular beings, the watchers of the book of Enoch. And so I'm going to share an article that I'm going to be reading from somewhat, touching upon it, and I'll post a link to it in the chat room. It's an interesting article, to say the least, written by a reverend, and he speaks about the things that we're going to be touching upon here. Okay, Harm, if that's your name, you're asking about the Gospel of Nicodemus, and I'll post a link to that as well for you if you want to know more about the 40 days when Christ came back from his resurrection, and also the other witnesses that were found upon the earth during that time. Just so those that are listening to the show, if you're don't have access to the chat room, you'll actually know what I'm talking about. This is that text, Harm. You're welcome. It has great detail on what happened, how it played out, the 3 days when Christ was supposedly, dead, that he went down into Sheol, he freed all of the patriarchs from Adam to the thief on the cross, and that all of this was foretold even in that book that I've been doing a series on, the book of Atum and Ua, which again is a 5,500-year-old text, and that the Thracians, they preceded the Greeks and the Sumerians by 2,000 years, and that they were ancient Christians, and that they knew about Christ, and that he'd come into the flesh, and that he would fulfill all the prophecies as laid out by Isaiah, be born of a virgin, all of those things. And also I want to share an Amazon link to those who want to do more research on the worship of the serpent worldwide. There was a Reverend John Bathurst Dean that put together a book in the late 1800s, which we have reprints of it now, called The Worship of the Serpent Traced Throughout the World and Its Traditions, referred to the events in paradise, proving the temptation and fall of man by the instrumentality of a serpent tempter. And this particular book is worthwhile to purchase, which there are cheaper reprints of it available for those that are interested in the worship of the serpent, that want to know about the things that I'm talking about here, and how the Nakash, what Revelation 12 cites as the great dragon, that old serpent, the devil, and Satan, how it is that this particular being really was and holds the form of a feathered serpent, and that as a shining one, he is an enchanter, a magician, and that he's the one that beguiled Eve and impregnated her with Cain and created his own race of hybrid beings here upon this planet, and that these beings are known as the tares. What Christ refers to as the tares, and also what he calls the goats, and that the whole passage, the whole parable of Matthew chapter 13 is associated to this event and to this particular beguilement. Paul also speaks about it in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2 and 3. And so it's absolutely important to understand what happened then and how this particular dragon-like being, how he interdicted into the affairs of humanity, even so much as to take the virginity of Eve and to cause the fall of humanity and to cause all of the ancestors of Adam and Eve to be born upon this wilderness of the earth. And that this war, this enmity between these two bloodlines and seed lines would be ongoing until the return of Christ. And that was the whole reason why he, in fact, had to come into the flesh in the first place, was to correct the deviation and the corruption of our DNA and the corruption of our blood. And that he, when he was resurrected and defeated death and was taken to the right hand of the Father and took all of the patriarchs from Adam onward to live and to enter them again into paradise, and for all of us to, for them at that time and for us now to have chance for redeeming, where we have the opportunity to return to our first estate, to that place of habitation of which the rebel angels and the fallen angels have fallen from, and that, this is also pertains to us. Remember Revelation chapter 2, remember from whence thou art fallen. It also applies to us, and that we pre-existed with him prior to our embodiment now in our incarnation into flesh form, that we had once been angelic in form, and that we were predestinated for the trial that we are undergoing right now. And so I posted a link to the book. I would recommend that if you can afford to get it, to purchase it. I also believe that there is a link where you can read it online for those of you that may be crunched right now in just trying to manage and make it and to feed your families and your loved ones, which many are. These are no easy times that we're living in. But let me find that link for you so you can read it online as well. And it's very in-depth. He covers and breaks down the study and the worship of these serpents, the Nakash and the dragons, the feathered serpent, for thousands of years, going back in very ancient times, and talks about these beings as they are defined by all the cultures and all the peoples of the world. Alright, there's the link for that. It's part of the sacred text. They have an online edition available to you so you can read it freely. But I'm going to go ahead and touch upon this article. First, I'll read the Revelation 12, the quote that is associated to what we're about to go into. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And so, it's my opinion that that short time is the advent of the Second World Age. It would be that 6,000 years plus the 1,000-year millennial reign that would be the time allotted by the Most High and by Christ to the devil, to the Satan, to reign over this world and to be the ruler over it. Just like as defined by the Gnostics, the demiurge is the ruler over this visible world, and that he's the one that deceiveth the whole world. Alright, so we're going to go into the details of this from that article, Luciferian Fallen Angel Worship. It's beginning in Serpent, Dragon, and Sun Worship by Dr. Lee Warren. I'm going to skip just a little bit to Was Lucifer Always Personified? Alright. And then we'll get into some of the other aspects that I'm hoping we can cover today. Today, worshippers of Lucifer feel that he has received a bum rap from Christians and Jews who personify him as evil. One of the most quoted authorities on the subject is H.P. Blavatsky, who was the founder of the Theosophical Society. Quoting from her book, Secret Doctrine, she explains the various ancient culture views and philosophy of evil. She writes, quote, Antiquity knew of no isolated, thoroughly and absolute bad god of evil. Pagan thought represented good and evil as twin brothers born of the same mother, nature. In the beginning, the symbol of good and evil were mere abstraction for light and darkness. This led to the primal, original twins Osiris, Typhon, Ormuzd, Ahriman, and finally Cain and Abel. From this statement, good and evil are believed to be co-equal and considered twins. She further states that the ancient philosophy, recognizing neither good or evil as a fundamental or independent power, but starting from the absolute all, universal perfection eternally. She goes on to say that to every people except the Christian nations, the devil is to this day no worse an entity than the opposite aspect in the dual nature of the so-called Creator. One cannot claim God as the synthesis of the whole universe, as of omnipresent and omniscient and infinite, and then divorce him from evil. As there is far more evil than good in the world, it follows on logical grounds that either God must include evil or stand as the direct cause of it, or else surrender his claims to absoluteness. Indeed, evil is but the antagonizing blind force in nature. It is reaction, opposition, and contrast. Evil for some, good for others. Now, this is the mindset that the pagans and the secret societies, that they will place and cite in, as to why evil is a necessary force, or that Satan is just, the balance of the Most High God and of Christ, and that that he's not evil personified, but just a necessary part of nature. But the thing about it is that duality and the spectrum of good and evil has only been allotted certain period of time to exist. And according to Scripture, there is consequence for evil and for the inclinations and the actions and behaviors which are tainted by it, and for those that follow in its accord. And so there's a judgment. And this is another thing that they will deny as well, is that there is judgment or consequence for our behaviors and actions. When, it's only for short time, for this 6,000 years, that the second world age, and that when Christ comes again, evil will be eradicated. Death and Satan, they'll be cast into the lake of fire with all those that followed and were led astray and deceived, and that relished in acting in such way, like the New World Order, that take joy, that find joy in being in such ways, and causing murder and rape, pillage, and plunder, and desecrating the innocence of children, and are involved in pedophilia and the murder of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals, and the slaughter of the poor, the orphan, the widowed. Which, the shows that I did on the two ways, light and good, I emphasize all of that in those. You can find that in the archive. One of those shows was on the Didache, the teaching of the apostles, and the other, the two ways. So check the archives for that, because there are absolute consequences And there is a judgment that is coming, where every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, and those that have enjoyed ruling as they have and indulging in evil, they will be tried for their behaviors and their actions. All right, continuing. H.P. Blavatsky states the following about the Christian interpretation of evil. It was left with the early and ignorant Christian fathers to degrade the philosophical and highly scientific idea of this emblem, the dragon, into an absurd superstition called the devil. They took it from the Zoroastrian Persian who saw the devils or the evil in the Hindi devas, and the word evil thus became by double transmutation devil in every tongue, diablos, diable, diavolo. From the above quotes, one can begin to understand the basis of evil in the ancient cultures. All right, one other thing, real quick comment, that even like I did a show not long ago called The Satanic Conspiracy, and how the History Channel, through the Ancient Alien series, they're trying to portray Lucifer as the light bringer, and that it's because of his sacrifice that we have the bounty and the knowledge and the culture, the civilization that we do have and enjoy, and that without him we would be cavemen lost in, still trying to manage and to make it in this world. And that's one of the things that is also part of the strong delusion, how the ancient aliens, and specifically Lucifer and Satan, that they will make him out to be a good guy, and that they will lead people astray in believing such, and that they will also, many will believe him to be the benefactor as well as the savior of humanity, when they don't realize that the pagan religions and also the fallen angels and the giant children that were born unto them, they were the ones that instituted victim sacrifice and the offering up of blood, cannibalism, the drinking of blood, the murder of children and innocents, all for ritualized abuse, all these things as part of these pagan religions. All right, continuing. Quoting the book Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky, it states that worship of the dragon and the sun were universal on the earth plane. The tradition of the dragon and the sun is echoed in every part of the world. There was a time when the four parts of the world were covered with the temples sacred to the sun and the dragon, but the cult is now preserved mostly in China and the Buddhist countries. The dragon, however, is not the middle-aged concept of a beast with wings breathing fire, but is in reality a snake. The Gentiles at that time did not consider the beast that they worshipped evil, but were the symbols of wisdom, salvation, and eternal life. In essence, the worshippers of Lucifer feel that Christendom has gotten the story backwards. The fallacy of this argument is that the Gentile nations attributed all the qualities of Elohim to beasts. Hence, to the ancient people, the serpent became the embodiment of wisdom and life, and through their cultural view was not inherently evil. All right, I'm going to give you an example now. I told you about the worship of the feathered serpent in ancient history. Well, I'm going to give you an example of that from the Apocrypha called Bel and the Dragon. And it's a really short quick. It's only 2 chapters, and this will give you an idea as to how the Babylonians were involved in the worship of the Nakash, the feathered serpent, also known as Bel or Baal, which means Lord, and some other things, which you can look all that up in Wikipedia, and that Bel and Baal also have are related to the worship of the Anunnaki, these ancient gods, these Sumerian gods, Canaanite gods, Akkadian gods, Babylonian gods, basically the rebel angels. Alright, so I'm going to read this real quick, because you'll see how, Baal and Bel, just like the prophet Elijah, he went against the priest of Baal, that they worship idols that are supposed to be symbolic of the fallen angels, but that they also literally did worship living and breathing serpents, which we'll get to in the second part of the story. Alright, let's go ahead and read this first. Bel and the Dragon. Let me post a link in the chat room for those that would either like to follow along or read for yourself later. Fascinating story. And then we'll get back to the article. Alright. Says this. And King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. Now the Babylons had an idol called Bel, and there were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour, and 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine. And the king worshipped it, and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own God. And the king said unto him, Why dost thou not worship Bel? Who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living God, who hath created the heaven and the earth, and hath sovereignty over all flesh. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou not that Bel is a living God? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day? And then Daniel smiled and said, Okay, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything. And so the king was wroth, and called for his priests, and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die. But if ye can certify me that Bel devoureth them, then Daniel shall die, for he hath spoken blasphemy against Baal. And Daniel said unto the king, Let it be according to thy word. And now the priests of Baal were 70, beside their wives and children. And the king went with Daniel into the temple of Baal. And so Baal's priests said, Lo, we go out, but thou, O king, set on the meat, and make ready the wine, and shut the door fast, and seal it with thy own signet. And tomorrow, when thou comest in, if thou findest not that Bel hath eaten up all, we all will suffer death. Or else Daniel, that speaketh falsely against us. Alright. And they little regarded it, for under the tables... Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. And they little regarded it, for under the tables they had made a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually, and consumed those things. So when they were gone forth, the king set meats before Bel, And now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and those they strewed throughout all the temple in the presence of the king alone. Then went out and shut the door and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. Now in the night came the priests with their wives and children, as they were wont to do, and did eat and drink up all. In the morning betime the king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, Yea, O king, they be whole. And as soon as he had opened the door, the king looked upon the table and cried with a loud voice, Great art thou, O Bel, and with thee is no deceit at all. Then laughed Daniel and held the king that he should not go in, and said, Behold now the pavement, and mark well whose footsteps are these. And the king said, I see the footsteps of men, women, and children. And then the king was angry, and took the priests with their wives and children, who showed him the privy doors where they came in, and consumed such things as were upon the table. Therefore the king slew them, and delivered Bel into Daniel's power, who destroyed him in his temple. And in that same place there was a great dragon, which they of Babylon worshipped. And the king said unto Daniel, Wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is no living God. Therefore worship him. Then said Daniel unto the king, I will worship the Lord my God, for he is the living God. But give me leave, O king, and I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff. The king said, I give thee leave. And then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair, and did seethe them together, and made lumps thereof. This he put in the dragon's mouth, and so the dragon burst in sunder. And Daniel said, Lo, these are the gods ye worship. And when they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation, and conspired against the king, saying, The king is become a Jew, and he hath destroyed Bel. He hath slain the dragon, and put the priests to death. And so they came to the king, and said, Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house. And now when the king saw that they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them, who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, which then were not given to them, and the intent that they might devour Daniel. Now, you know the rest of the story, so I won't read it and go into it. But basically, the Lord preserved him, and the king prayed for him, and after later they checked on him, and Daniel, on the 7th day, they checked on Daniel, and then they released him. The king released him from the lion's den. And so, this story, very simple, very quick, it shows to you that the people of Babylon, that they worship the serpent, the Nakash, in idol form, as a brass and wooden idol, but that there was also a living dragon, a creature related to the feathered serpent, the Nakash, and that this particular being, was a living, breathing creature. Now, if you do have a chance to read from that link that I gave you about the worship of the serpent traced throughout the world, and you can read it freely on sacredtext.com, you'll read about all the various dragon-like, basilisk-like, and also the cockatrice, all these particular creatures that aren't in existence anymore, or if they are, they're in some of the far corners of the world, which they're not, which we're not seeing just openly and widely, it wouldn't surprise me that there are dragons still available and still found within the world. In fact, I posted a lot of links on the fallenangels.tv website, and for those that are interested in doing more research on the topics that we're talking about here, you can join us for fellowship and for dialogue and for discussion at www.fallenangels.tv, which is the website that I host, wherein many of the listeners, even in the chat room now, are members, and where we talk about and discuss these kinds of issues. And that we also talk about, the current news stories and current events that have recently come to light, which confirm the strange nature of what is the ancient mysteries, the ancient world, and how, even though we're in modern times, there is a basis in reality for these kinds of things. Let me post a link to the Fallen Angels website in the chat room. So those that are new can join us there. Because I know a lot of you, like myself and like a lot of us that are members there at Fallen Angels TV, that you don't necessarily have other people whom you can discuss or speak to about these kinds of issues. And this isn't the only thing that we talk about, not just Bible prophecy, not just the ancient mysteries and things of that nature. We also are knowers of the 9/11 conspiracies, the false flag terrorism, the controlled opposition, the New World Order. All of these topics are talked about there and discussed openly. You can ask questions, you can post your own blogs, you can upload your own audio, links to videos. It's a really easy website to utilize, in that it makes it very simple to share information in different ways, in various ways, with a large audience of people that are also like-minded and that have done similar research as yourself in coming to discernment upon all these things. All right, let's get back to the article. I can already tell I'm going to have to set up a part 2, because I haven't even covered a lot of what I would like to. All right, picking back up with the article. Primarily, many powerful secret societies, such as the Freemasons and other organizations, continue the worship of Lucifer today in the Western Christian culture. In most cases, Lucifer worship is hidden from the public to avoid their adverse reaction. Here are a few quotes from the writings of the Freemasons that illustrate their belief in a light or a light bearer, and that light is Lucifer. However, this mystery is revealed only to the Masons of the 30th degree and above. Albert Pike wrote in his classic book, Morals and Dogma, the Supreme Council of the Southern Jurisdiction, which is mandatory reading for all Masons of certain degrees, the following: Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it Is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not. It should be noted that many of the world's elitists that believe in the New World Order are Luciferian in their worship. In fact, most of the world leaders for the last 2,000 years believed in various forms of magic and the occult. Christianity was just a front for these people, but you will not find this fact in your history books or lessons taught in school. The book, The Occult Conspiracy, by Michael Howard, said that, quote, many of the famous historical personalities of the last 2,000 years, including statesmen, politicians, religious leaders, and royalty, were actively involved in the occult, mysticism, and magical practices. In addition, it will show that many of the major historical events of the period have a hidden significance which can only be explained in terms of an occult conspiracy. The revealing of this conspiracy is integral to any true understanding of world history and the development of Western civilization because of its wide-ranging and far-reaching influence. Which, those of you that know about the New World Order and things that are going on, like the Bohemian Grove, the worship of Moloch, the 40-foot stoned owl, which in the Old Testament it speaks about how these sons of Belial were involved in the worship of these ancient deities, and that they even offered up their children in sacrifice to these beings, and that they established these sacrificial centers, temples, in the high places and also in the groves. And that these kind of things, that even Israel had fallen away and got involved in such worship, and that it wasn't until the time of Josiah, the king, that the high places were destroyed. And in fact, for those that don't know, the whole reason why Job was persecuted in the book of Job was because he was actively destroying these temple complexes where Satan, Lucifer, was being worshipped. And that Job knew that he was going to be tried in this way. That, the way that the book of Job depicts that Satan went, with the counsel of the mighty and with the other sons of God, said that the only reason that Job worships you is because to the Most High, is because you bless him with everything, you give him everything, and why wouldn't he worship you? Job, in fact, already knew that this was coming upon him. You can read the Testament of Job, which precedes the account of the book of Job, where Job is actively going around and destroying these groves, these temple complexes, and idols that are connected to the worship of this particular being. Excuse me. And so, if you read that book, you'll understand why it is that Satan targeted Job and why he was so mad with him and why he wanted repercussions. He wanted to be allowed to go after him. And the Most High sent one of his angels to Job and told him that, Job, if you continue to destroy these temples and these high places and these grove centers where they're doing such abominable worship and performing, these rituals in these abominable ways, that Satan's going to target you And Job basically says, well, bring it on, tell Satan to bring it on. And then the Most High tells Job, or the angel of the Most High tells Job, that if you will adhere and you continue in perseverance and you stick to your faith in me, and you overcome, then I'll bless you double fold, and also multiply your bounty in whatever ways you may be persecuted. And so, that gives you a whole other understanding as to how the book of Job plays out. So I would recommend people read it. It's one of those things like, the sacrifice of Isaac, Abraham's sacrifice of Isaac, that if you read the extra biblical and extra canonical text, you'll realize that Isaac knew, and he boasted to Ishmael, saying that he would even give of his life for his faith, and that the angels overhearing him, same as with Satan trying Job, Satan then went after Isaac and Abraham. And so once you know that it wasn't just out of the blue, and that God didn't just allow these things just because he wanted to play out some game with Satan, his people as the elect, and that were steadfast in their resolve to serve him as the Most High, they knew, and they knew what was coming, and they welcomed the opportunity and the chance to verify their worth and their resolve in being steadfast in their faith. And so check that out. And if you're interested in the story that I'm talking about as far as the sacrifice of Abraham and Isaac, you can find that in the archives as well. Or you can find it on my YouTube channel under Endeavor Freedom, ENDEAVOR, Freedom, FREEDOM. And that all that information is there for you to check out and to understand. All right, we're going to read just a few more paragraphs of this, and then I'll set up a part 2 for next week, and then we'll pick up with the series on the Book of Atom and Ua after that. All right, continuing. The great mystery is that the Gentile nations were seduced into believing that they were intercoursing with gods or righteous angels, spirits of Elohim, but in reality they were communing with fallen angels. This occurred according to the purpose of Elohim. Darkness was allowed to reign first, and then afterward the light was manifest to overthrow it. This pattern ties in beautifully with the account in Genesis that states there was darkness that covered the face of the earth first before Elohim brought about the light. And this is also the reason why we have in Genesis verse 1 and 2 of chapter 1, how it is that the earth became null and void. Because it wasn't created that way. It was made that way as a judgment upon Lucifer, the rebel angels, for the establishment of culture and civilization upon what was the old earth, or what is known and referenced as Tiamat and Maldek. If you want to know more about that, you can go to my 6th book, Sons of God, Who We Are and Why We're Here. I lay it out as the Genesis timeline when I explain how it is that the earth became null and void. All right, continuing. The worship of the dragon, serpents, and the sun are as old as time and can be traced throughout pagan history. It began at Babylon, continued in Egypt, and was a part of many great nations, Persian, Egypt, Greece, and the Incas in the Americas, to name a few. The only thing I would add is that it preceded Babylon and even Atlantis, and that it began with some of the deviations from what was the mother culture of Mu, and that it really became a prominent during the time of Atlantis, when the sons of Belial were warring against the sons of light, the sons of darkness against the sons of the law, which there's a book, the Dead Sea Scrolls, a book on the wars of the sons of light with the sons of darkness, that explains how there would be 7 ages or 7 movements back and forth between control and rule as established by the sons of light and the sons of darkness, but that in the end the sons of light prevail and overcome the sons of darkness. All right, just a little bit more. One of the most important points that must be understood in the beginning of this investigation is that there are events in history that forever change the way one perceives and performs things. For example, inventions such as the airplane, automobile, radio, TV, printing press, and computer forever changed travel and communication. Likewise, the law of Yahweh given to Moses, the Israelites led by Yahweh, and the coming of Yeshua, the Messiah, and his apostles, led by the Holy Spirit, forever changed the way mankind viewed their heavenly Father. These Elohim initiated changes brought an increase in mankind's understanding of their Creator, and I would also add of the rebel angels and the, how it is that most of the world was led astray. And that how it is that the old serpent, that ancient dragon, how it was that he deceiveth and led astray the entirety of the world. Under the pagan system, all types of idols were worshipped. The predominant form of worship was toward the sun, the serpent, or the Nakash, the feathered serpent, the winged serpent, and the dragon, which, the dragon is the same thing. All the attributes of Yahweh were attributed to these idols. Elohim revealed to Israel that he was the only creator and there was no other God. This revelation established monotheism among mankind by demonstrating Elohim's power through his people Israel via the miraculous overthrowing of Egypt. The death of Pharaoh, his son, and his city changed the dominant pagan mindset of the period. The pagans in the most advanced nations like Egypt and Babylon did not perceive serpents and dragons as evil, especially as they were portrayed in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament by Moses. And later in the prophets, Moses was the first person to describe the archangel Lucifer as the serpent. Just a little bit more and then we'll end with prayer. He wrote the book of Genesis as a result of a vision he had atop Mount Sinai. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. Clearly, Moses associated the serpent with Lucifer, or the devil, a fallen angel, created by Elohim, the Word or Son, as was the rest of the angelic creation. Isaiah the prophet first used the word Lucifer in describing the king of Babylon. He wrote, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" It should be noted that the word Lucifer does not appear in most versions of the Bible, only in the King James Version and the Living Bible Other versions just call him the light bearer or the morning star. Now the word dragon was also associated with a man, for Ezekiel the prophet wrote that Yahweh described the king of Egypt as a dragon. He wrote, "Speak and say, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, My river is mine own, and I have made it for myself." The dragon of the ancient world was a serpent, as the book of the secret doctrine points out. I would say not just a serpent, but a winged serpent, just as is described in the book of Atam and Ua, that the Nakash, the dragon, or the serpent of Genesis 3, is described as the winged snake, the feathered serpent, the guardian of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now in the book of Revelation from the King James Version of the Bible, the Apostle John confirmed Moses' vision, for he associated an angel with the dragon and the serpent, which was the result of the vision he received on the Isle of Patmos. He wrote, "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world." Last paragraph here. The point being made here is that in the Hebrew Scriptures, Lucifer was identified as the cause of the rebellion in heaven and the evil in the earth plane. He is symbolically described as the dragon, the serpent, and the son of the morning. This was contrary to the belief system of this pagan era, because for them, the dragon and the serpent were universally worshipped as signs of wisdom. This will be further drawn out later in this article. All right, we're going to stop here. We'll pick it up in part 2 next week. I hope that for those of you that are new to this material, that it's starting to make sense and that you realize that the worship of the dragons and the mythology of their bringing down to earth and giving such knowledge to the people worldwide, to the indigenous peoples worldwide, the native peoples worldwide, is nothing more than what is being described in the book of Enoch as, the angels leaving their first estate and bringing to humanity the knowledge, the mysteries of the heavens, heavenly secrets, and also that they did so because they were lusting after the daughters of man, specifically the daughters of Cain, and that they were trying to take wives of all which they chose, and the hybrid children that were born unto them, that these children were established as the ruling elites worldwide, given the divine right to rule over the masses and to make choice for all the peoples of the world. And so with that, I pray that the Most High bless you in discernment, lead you and guide you in your seeking of truth, and help you to come to understanding on all those secrets that are contained, veiled, and held within the Gospels of both the Old and the New Testaments. God bless all. Good night. See you next week. Don't forget, Wednesday, Revolution Radio, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Good night, all. God bless.